The just concluded United States Leaders Summit has left festering reinforced friendships between the United States and Africa. According to US President Joe Biden, the United States is all in on Africa's future. About 49 heads of state attended the summit. On the margins of the summit, Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari held a Diaspora town hall meeting in Washington, D.C. We will bring you details of that meeting and a special interview with Honorable Abike Dabiri Erewa, Chairman CEO, NIDCOM, who facilitated the town hall meeting. That's not all. The Diaspora producer and director, Mr. Gabriel Odu, had an interview with AFS Award winner, Mr. Noel Alumona. It promises to be revealing. Not done yet. We will also take you to our health segment with Association of Nigerian Physicians in the Americas, ANPA. Very interesting health tips await you. And of course, do not forget our Diaspora of the moment. This is the Diaspora, your favorite show, and I am Shalewa Ajila, your anchor. Please stay with us. Let's begin with the town hall report by Adamu Sambo.
Happy birthday to you. The well-attended town hall meeting coincides with President Muhammadu Buhari's 80th birthday, and the nation's diaspora community in the United States could not help celebrating him. It was also an opportunity for participants, including those elected and appointed into positions of responsibility in the United States, to give their verdict on the president's stewardship in the last 7.5 years.
Fundamentally, I want to say thank you for what you've been doing for our country. We're all funkles away.
I thank you, sir, for all the service that you've done as you end your term to make Nigeria more prosperous and safer.
And I believe we are entering what I am calling the African era. And Nigeria must lead the African era.
We are not in office just to be in office. We're in office asking how can we help Nigeria.
President Buhari is delighted with the honor and pride Nigerians in the United States bring to their fatherland, but stressed the absolute necessity for them to remain law-abiding and reference points of excellence.
Let me reiterate that this will be my last address to our diasporans here in Washington, and let you know the high regards with which this administration has held you, and to thank you immensely for keeping faith with Nigeria. Your faith in our country is not misplaced and will add to our momentum to turn Nigeria around for her appropriate leadership of our continent.
The president noted that apart from diaspora home remittances through official channels hitting $20 billion last year, 4 times over the value of the nation's foreign direct investment, many of the diaspora compatriots are also investing actively in various sectors of Nigeria's economy.
I must say this is most commendable, and in our enlightened collective self-interest, as only Nigerians, both at home and abroad, can develop Nigeria, I am personally proud of you all.
He used the forum to reaffirm his commitment towards ensuring that the 2023 election processes continue to progress smoothly, transparently, and consistent with the laws of the land.
This is the only way we can strengthen democracy in Nigeria and set the right example for the rest of Africa, and hopefully stop the recourse to unconstitutional changes of governments in our sub-region and the rest of African continent.
Nigerian ambassador to the United States, Uzoma Emenike, had told the president that there are over 1 million documented Nigerians in the country, most of them law-abiding, intelligent, hardworking, and resilient.
Honorable Abike Dabiri Erewa facilitated the town hall meeting. Take a listen.
I'm so happy about President's engagement with Nigerians in the diaspora. So in this particular one, we had the largest numbers that we've ever had. Number one, because it's going to be the last one that the president will be holding with them. And the first one happened in Washington. So incidentally, the last one is also happening in Washington. So it was a large gathering of excellent professionals spanning all fields of human endeavor: academia, medicine, creative industry, health, arts, IT. We have to watch out for Nigerians in the tech world, in America in particular, and other parts of the world. Watch out for them. These young Nigerians are doing amazing things, and they will take over the world very soon. So what we're telling them is, you need to do a few things back home, and you know what? They are doing it. There's one of them who is actually developing websites and employing people here without even seeing them, and get them, and they're helping her to do all those things too. So it's really huge what our youths are doing in terms of tech. So Mr. President too, as usual, was excited and spoke to them, and of course he commended IDCOM for all we've been doing and the programs and activities that we've been having. And we need to do a lot more. I think this is just the beginning. There's a lot more to be done in terms of diaspora engagement, Just putting 2,000 diaspora in the room, they can change everything. And what we're doing now is building the data, and the response is very encouraging. Look, we're too much as a people. No country in the world, and I'm saying that with all confidence, can boast of what we have in terms of human resources all over the world. And that's it.
We learned that from Nigerians who are in Biden's administration, president were privileged to see the president.
Some Nigerians have won elective positions. We had about 11 of them that have won elections. That's the highest number we've ever had in all parts of America. And then we have quite a number working with the Biden administration. So some have contested elections and they have won, and serving in various ways in Congress, in various states too. And they were all there. And, very excited to receive Mr. President. And guess what? They spoke with passion on the connection back home. And for me in particular, I've met a lot of younger Nigerians who are looking for a platform to just give back and do things. And I'm glad we're able to engage. And we'll be receiving quite a lot of them early next year and even this December. And then the historic African diaspora were also in that room. Those that were telling the president, listen, we've done our DNA, we are Nigerians. We want our Nigerian passport. We want our dual citizenship. We want to come home. They were there. So it's we just need to get a few things right, which is basically fixing our country and ensuring that the environment is enabling enough for a lot more people, whether you're here or coming from abroad. But really, even the sky will not be our limit. Our diaspora are just, I'm just proud to be a Nigerian. Although we have the downside, but it's not a big deal. Because if I give me one Nigerian in trouble, I'll give you 10,000 doing great things all over the world. And it's amazing, really, but we are not even tapped into 1/100th of that potential or resources that we have. We're just scratching the surface. So there's a lot more to do. And there's a lot of work to do with our diaspora. The diaspora is just about working together. Partnerships is key. So the whole world is looking at the diaspora. So, same thing with Nigeria.
You look very excited about that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Nigerians are... There's a gentleman that was also in the hall who is developing something for prostate cancer. By the time he's done with it, it will be named after him. So Professor TSAR or something and his wife, they were there. Chini, one of the best basketballers of all times. And what I'm saying is, they're not just there, they are working with their country. Chini is developing young girls here in basketball. She comes all the time to pick talents. So I'm talking of Nigerians who are not just sitting back abroad and say, and talking about their country. They are rather partnering and saying, look, we want to do a lot more. And I'm even more excited about the younger ones that are, So we are the platform for them to engage and do it properly.
It was very symbolic because it coincided with the president's birthday.
Oh, yeah.
What happened there?
Well, it was again, it's the president's first diaspora meeting was there. His last was there in Washington. And it was also his 80th birthday, another significant year. Of course, we celebrated Mr. President, our ambassador in Washington, got a beautiful portrait for him, and also had a cake. And we started him a birthday song. And you could see the surprise on his face. He was so surprised, and he was looking at us like, what are you guys up to? And I know that he whispered to me that he was glad he was going to have a quiet birthday. He didn't want all the noise. He said he was happy he would be having a quiet birthday in the air, and he was grateful to God for all he's done, and he's hoping that everything is done, particularly ensuring we have free and fair elections, infrastructure, and a whole lot of things really will be appreciated by every one of us.
Thank you, Mama Diaspora, for always putting diaspora matters on the front burner. Now, to the interview with Mr. Noel Alumuna.
We have a special guest today on the Diaspora. It's Noel Alumuna, EFS Award winner. Yes, we're having a conversation with him. He's here in Nigeria. So, to you, what does that award mean?
To me, the award is just another important voice resounding and reminding me that the work that I'm doing is very important to the world. And it is also an encouragement and a part of the fact to never relent, regardless of the hurdles and the difficulties that doing the work that I do really comes with. So it is really important to me. Also because it is a recognition of my country, it is a recognition of my community, it is a recognition of the African continent. So the award is not just for me, it is an award for the entire continent, because being the first African to actually be recognized recognized in that way is really very important, which I will celebrate it across the continent. So that's why it is really important. So once again, we continue to put Nigeria, we continue to put Africa on the map for the right reasons, and that's why it is really important to me.
You take some of that violence against women and girls, we think it is only this other side of the world. It doesn't happen there. So are you thinking towards home?
Yes, I am thinking back home. I am thinking back home, and that is why we're actually doing some of the things that we do. Our projects are also running here in Nigeria, and in the last 4 years that we started Points Champions, we've had to impact over 5,000 lives of young people here in Nigeria. Aside that, we started also the Shaping the Future Conference, which brings together over 2,000 young people across the country, across Nigeria every year. And the essence of that program is to open up conversations, gather policymakers, gather young people, and open up conversations on issues that affect young people. For instance, that conference actually has about 3 different sessions of plenary sessions where we talk about education and how Nigeria has fared so far. Where we talk about the importance of peace building, because of course we all know how conflict has actually become the order of the day in Nigeria, and these are issues that actually affect us. So we're trying to open up conversations and see how we can all become part of the solution, to create this change and to make this change happen in our community. So,
what's your perception about Nigerians in diaspora commission? What's your perception? Headed back and able to navigate that direction?
The office for me has really been trying to ensure that Nigerians in diaspora are cared for. They're very eager to associate with issues that actually concern all of us who are outside of Nigeria. And that is actually shown, when I won that award, and how Dr. Abike Dabiri actually followed up, with me, calling me, sending congratulations, and then also trying to ensure that, we have the kind of reception that we had, especially with all the speakers that we are bringing from different countries for Shaping the Future Conference. So I think the Commission is really working and hoping to supporting people who are outside of Nigeria, and that's really incredible.
Let's take a short break with Boyalinko leading us.
Not so fast. Look, I'm tired. I want to check out of this country for greener pastures.
Just calm down for a moment. Please sit down.
Do you have a job where you're going to?
No, but someone is arranging,
Listen, Aliko. Checking out of this country without proper planning means one thing. Unimaginable begin. You know, I've been in the diaspora, but legitimately doing great things at home and abroad. As I've been saying, without the proper footing abroad, the risk is not worth it. Listen, Alinko, it's better to be home than be trapped abroad, or even end up in prison.
Welcome back. If you must travel, travel legitimately. Now to our health segment with AMPA Doctor.
My name is Dr. Benjamin Anyanwu, a neurologist. I'm trained in the United States. I'm also trained in stroke and the critical care management of patients with neurological and neurosurgical diseases. I have over 20 years experience in the practice of medicine, and at one point was the chairman and medical director of one of the largest stroke programs in the United States. I chose to come back to Nigeria to establish Region Stroke and Neuroscience Hospital as part of an effort to be able to bring back technology and quality care in the area of stroke to Nigeria. Sickle cell disease is a genetic disorder and also a hematologic disorder. It's a disorder that affects red blood cells. In general, the understanding is that there's a substitution of one of the amino acids in the red blood cell wall, such that the red cells begins to sickle instead of being well-rounded the way it's supposed to be. By so doing, the life of the red cells is also shortened, and its ability to carry oxygen is also reduced significantly. We think that genetically, that people who live in the Mediterranean and Africa developed the gene to be able to fight against malaria, which is endemic in these areas. Unfortunately, in trying to make hemoglobin or red cells that are protective to certain types of malaria, we ended up with hemoglobins that can actually do that, but don't live as long and are not able to carry enough oxygen at any point in time, therefore leading to sickle cell disease. For you to have a child or for you to have sickle cell disease, both of your parents will have the trait, or one of your parents will have the disease and the other will have the trait. Patient who has sickle cell disease will have a hemoglobin SS. If you have SS hemoglobin, we regard you as having sickle cell disease. These patients with sickle cell disease are exposed to what we regard as a chronic state of hypoxia, or chronic state where their oxygen tension is generally low. This can result in a lot of complications in patients with sickle cell disease. They can have pain because of this low oxygen tension, and we call that painful crisis. They can also develop other problems, including problems that lead to the early narrowing of blood vessels in the brain and elsewhere. When this happens, we regard this as severe stenosis of the vessels due to this chronic state of hypoxia. Because of that chronic state of hypoxia, the blood vessels in the brain react over time in such a way that it begins to narrow. If this narrowing goes long enough and nothing is done, the blood vessels will even get more narrower. And the narrower it becomes, the more chances that you're going to have a stroke. This narrowing is generally referred to as stenosis. Patients with sickle cell disease are more prone to this condition rather than the patients with sickle cell trait. Absolutely, it can be prevented, and the general basis for prevention of stroke in patients with sickle cell disease is to ensure that we optimize their hemoglobin state at any point in time. Luckily, there are drugs that help to do that, some of the commoner ones being hydroxyurea. Of course, the patients are expected to eat healthy, exercise, and drink enough water at all times. We generally also recommend that they avoid those conditions that tend to precipitate that state of hypoxia. Most patients with sickle cell disease seem to know conditions that can predispose them to complications. Such conditions include very cold weather in some instances, or excessive exercises depending on what triggers it for these patients. However, despite all odds, some of the patients who still take their medications and do the right thing for themselves can develop strokes from sickle cell disease. One of the major landmark trials that looked at sickle cell disease and ways to prevent it is the STOP trial, S-T-O-P trial. And in a nutshell, what we do is to look at the velocity of blood flow in the brain of patients who have sickle cell disease. To be able to accomplish this, we recommend routine transcranial Doppler ultrasound. We look at the velocity of blood flow within the middle cerebral artery, which is one of the largest vessels within the brain itself. And it's recommended that you do this at least once a year. Usually people who have velocities above 200 are considered to be at very high risk for having stroke. When this happens, we recommend that these patients undergo what we call exchange blood transfusion. The general thing on understanding around exchange blood transfusion is to remove the blood of the patient through a process supervised by a specialist who does this, usually a hematologist, and replace them with the hemoglobin and blood cells of the patient who have hemoglobin AA. By so doing, it helps to reduce progression of this narrowing. It is important, of course, for patients who have sickle cell disease to be supervised by somebody who is experienced in the care of patients with sickle cell disease, particularly people who are also experienced in prevention and treatment of stroke.
We now welcome our diaspora of the moment. Our diaspora of the moment is Ademilola Lola Odujiri. Lola is a British-born Nigerian aircraft pilot who was born in South London and moved to Nigeria at a young age. When he was 20 years old, he qualified for his private pilot license, PPL, in 19 days. Lola was trained in the UK and the United States, flying for Arik Air for 5 years before working for Air Djibouti. Since earning his commercial license in 2011, Lola has logged over 4,000 hours as a commercial Boeing 737 pilot. Ademilola completed his one-man, one-plane expedition on March 29, 2017. In completing his journey, he became the first African and the 9th British pilot to fly around the world solo. He is one of only 117 people in the world to have achieved this. More people have currently flown into space than have flown around the world solo. The flight was part of Project Transcend, a foundation that aims to inspire young people in order to achieve their goals regardless of their personal circumstances. At age 38, he began his journey, which he has been planning since 2014. He flew for 9 months, stopping in more than 15 countries on 5 continents. Lola flew from Washington to Canada via John F. Kennedy International Airport, then to Iceland, Scotland, England, Valencia, Malta, Egypt, Djibouti, Oman, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Thailand. In 2017, he became the first African pilot in history to fly solo around the world. Congratulations, Lola. We celebrate you as our diaspora of the moment. Thank you for your time. This being the last episode for 2022 from all of us in the Diaspora Media team. See you next year, 2023. Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year. Bye for now.